Right. Welcome to this meeting of the Cabinet, the extraordinary meeting on the 22nd of July to consider the U-Bus service. Before we start, can I have any apologies for absence?
Yes, we have apologies from Councillors Gist and Curtis.
Thank you very much. And any disclosures of interest? No disclosures of interest? In which case we move on to Part B, which is matters for decision by the Cabinet. And this is comes under the Housing and Customer Service portfolio and is the replacement for the U-Bus, which is the Warwickshire County Council Demand Responsive Transport and Service Enhancements. And this is about significant work that is being undertaken between Warwickshire County Council and Stratford-on-Avon District Council about the maintenance of the U-Bus service. And negotiations have been taking place right up until Friday on this. So I hand over to the head of the customer services and Nick Cadd, who has been doing all the response consultations with the County Council. Nick, could you just outline first what you've been talking about with the County Council, and then I can bring in Councillor Liz Coles about what our response to that is. Thank you.
You can hear me anyway, can't you? Whether it's on or not.
I think it's more for the microphones and on.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Nick Cadd will speak. It will come up as Annette Holman because he's using that mic, but it is Nick Cadd who's speaking.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Oh, it's working now. Okay. Right, we'll try again. Okay, if I'm understanding you correctly, Chair, I'm just to outline at the moment the conversation over the last couple of days prior to going into the full report for discussion. So, post-consultation response, I think we've learned a great deal about the needs of the U-Bus users, particularly in Tiddington and in Stratford Town, and the evening users, and those are the cohorts that are most significantly impacted upon by the suggested changes that will be resultant from the county taking on the DRT provision from the District Council. So that's the loss of the evening provision, so the 4:30 or late afternoon, early evening provision, so the 4:30 till 7 slot, and the sort of reconfiguring of the arrangements in Stratford Town and Tiddington. So we've continued negotiations around those two cohorts with the County Council, because I think we've learned during the consultation exercise that there'll be a more significant impact than we'd envisaged prior to the consultation responses and the OSC comments on Friday. So following conversations Friday lunchtime with the County Council, three concessions or alternatives were presented to us, and we discussed those, and those are... Oh, thanks, Annette. Firstly was a conversation about the village of Tiddington and the inclusion of the village of Tiddington as a rural area that would then enable Tiddington residents to book U-Bus or the DRT service in the way that the rest of the rural areas of the district could. So including Tiddington and part of North Clopton as well, actually, in the core rural offer that U-Bus currently provides and that the DRT Indigo service will provide post 1st September. The second concession or adjustment was to enable residents of Stratford Town that otherwise, or as previously configured, would not have been able to book a U-bus in the, or a DRT service in the way they used to book to travel into town, so to travel within Stratford town, and negotiations were sort of continuing around the possibility of them booking a U-bus to go out of town. And then the third kind of adjustment that was discussed at that meeting, although we don't have confirmation yet of this, being absolutely possible. Sort of continuing around the possibility of them booking a U-bus to go.
Elizabeth, could you mute, please, just for the minute? Thank you.
That's okay. The third possibility, and this is subject to, this is the subject of the paper that's been handed round, which is an update to Table 1, a supplement to Table 1, which is to consider the possibility of an additional vehicle that is as described in that table. The additional vehicle would be available to bring a near like-to-like service to Stratford town, and would also be deployable during the evening slot from 4:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. for the whole of the district. So it's a combination, if you like, of mitigation 1 and 2 in the report, but we've rebadged it mitigation 5 because it's a clearer summary of the options, essentially. So that, I think that brings the Cabinet up to date with the negotiations that were taking place at the end of last week. I can pause for comments or questions, or I can, go into more detail on the report as you see fit, Chair.
Can I just bring the portfolio holder at that point and just kind of perhaps outline how you undertake it? Then we can ask, people can ask questions of the officer and of the portfolio holder, and then we can also invite other questions from members of the public that are present, but also from the overview of scrutiny and the leader of the Conservative group as well. But would you like to just outline first how you understand?
Just advise. So if Councillor Coles is going to continue with the overall introduction at this stage, I then suggest we bring our public speaker in after that, before we then open out for wider debate. Thank you. Yeah,
that's fine.
Okay, well, I'll keep it at the overview, which, in view of the subject, is probably a great relief to you all. Yes, obviously, it has been an extremely difficult set of circumstances, and we do have to thank both the officers of the District Council and the County Council for the enormous amount of work that has been put in to do it. As Nick Cadd says, we now have mitigation 5, which has come as a result of the input that we've had as a result of the consultation. And, I think we can only apologise for people that we haven't had a much longer period to do it. We feel we've had an adequate ability to do the consultation, but having that sort of extended time to really sort of get into the detail has been just limited by circumstances. I'm afraid elections, boring detail, but nevertheless do interfere with the proper running of the council and getting things done. There is a lot of detail. There's been a lot of toing and froing on this, and again, I do have to thank the efforts of staff at both councils to try and get something. We initially looked at it of how best can we keep a service going, but we do feel, in many respects, subject to the ongoing negotiations, that what we are offering is actually at least as good as the previous service and actually has got some considerable enhancements to what was there before. So I'm happy with the way this has gone, and I'm happy actually to say that I feel confident that this would be okay for our residents and would be continuing to provide the service that they want in most respects.
Thank you. Can I bring in Elizabeth Dixon from Accessible Stratford, who wants to make some comments at this stage as well. Elizabeth, I don't know whether you know about the updated negotiations. Did you hear what Nick Cadd was saying earlier, that we have been in negotiation to get a much improved service than is on the paperwork? But if you could just say your part, and then we can, if you've got any questions, we can come back and answer those questions.
Yeah, it's morning, sorry. So I missed the first 6 minutes because I wasn't let into the meeting, so I didn't hear what Nick said. So if anything's been updated since the overview meeting, I don't know what it is. I've made some comments which I sent to, as requested, I sent them to Councillor Passingham, Councillor Coles. Nick had a copy. I sent them as requested last night. Yeah, I know lots of work has been done, and sorry, you're asking, and I got into this mess on Friday, Susan, as well, because it's really difficult to ask questions because it isn't as good as it could be. It could be better. The people in the town are going to lose out. And I'll say that now, what I said then, I'm not talking for me, because I rarely use the service.
Elizabeth, perhaps if at this stage we actually keep you up to date, bring you up to date very briefly, because actually the negotiations with the County Council are now going to be able to bring a much improved service. Nick, would you just like to kind of bring Elizabeth Dixon up to date on the changes that you've managed to negotiate?
Yeah, no problem whatsoever. So, for the benefit of Elizabeth, we've been in sort of ongoing discussions with the County Council, as you know, since we received the consultation responses and your response, and as a result, partially of the OSC meeting that took place on Friday. The County Council have suggested that we can include Tiddington Village in the rural areas, if you like, of the district. So allow effectively Tiddington residents to book a DRT service in the same way as the rest of the district, and you'll be familiar with the fact that previously there was the opposite was suggested. On top of that, there is a suggestion from the county that residents of Stratford town will be able to book a trip within the town, so a trip from their home to the supermarket or the doctors or wherever they choose to go. And negotiations are continuing on whether or not we will be able to extend that to residents who wish to go, or residents of Stratford town who wish to go out of the town. As you know, you'll be familiar at the moment, you can use both ways in Ubus. But also we have proposed to the county that if we are able to fund an additional vehicle, so a fifth vehicle, whether or not they will be able to facilitate that, and that would essentially mitigate both the loss of the daytime vehicle in Stratford town and the evening vehicle provision across the district.
And there is an additional cost to that, which takes us back to the like-for-like cost that we had about a year or so ago. Elizabeth, would you like to come in and make any comments?
Okay, so thank you. So thanks, Nick. So obviously a lot of work being done since Friday. I probably wouldn't have said some of what I'd said yesterday in my report if I'd have known that. Obviously an improvement for Tiddington Village. I'm a bit concerned and good for the booking in the town. That sounds good. Personally, the only thing I like to use it for is I go to Compton Verney on it with a friend in a wheelchair. We're both wheelchair users. Otherwise, if we're in a taxi, it's about 80 quid return, which is a bit expensive each, I have to say, because it's one wheelchair per taxi. So if you could just hold that thought. But I do think Councillor Coles said that she would probably meet me after this meeting, and I'd like to think that that might still happen. Yeah, she's nodding. I can see. Yeah, I can see you nodding. Yeah, thank you. So it sounds as if people are listening to all of us. Hopefully they're listening to me. Let's get some of the wording straight. Let's not keep calling these things disabled adapted vehicles. Let's call them wheelchair accessible vehicles. An extra bus will be really good, Susan. Thank you. So yes, it sounds as if things are moving in the right direction. Thank you. I think I don't need to say much more at the moment then.
And thank you, Elizabeth, because I do know that you've not been well, so I do appreciate you coming in today. Okay. Going on from that, would any other questions? Anybody else would like to come in? Councillor Sarah Welly-Huggins.
Yes, I'm actually delighted at this turn of events, really. I'm delighted that my comments that I made at OSC on Friday have been listened regarding the need for the council to use its favourable financial position to protect this service for the most vulnerable in the district. I think this shows that OSC discussions are very, very worthwhile. I do think, however, that there is grounds that we need to advertise this service a lot better. I think we could see a lot better uptick with this, particularly with the cost of transport that we've got across the district. Of course, I remain very concerned about the more rural areas as well accessing public transport or transport network. And again, I think that advertising this service will go some considerable way towards doing that. But for now, I'm delighted that my comments were listened to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I assure you that we all have been inputting into this at all levels. I also have been in touch with the County Council, and I know the County Councillors have been, as well as the portfolio holders. So we've all played a part in trying to work collaboratively with the County Council on making sure that this procurement is the very best that we can produce for our residents. Councillor Crump.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'll say just a lot of feedback has already come back from OSC in a different way. From Elizabeth had to put up with my puns, and I think it was really worthwhile. Lots of in-depth discussions. Just building on the point about advertising the service, I know we've got the communication survey, which is going out to around about 10,000 houses, isn't it? And it'd be interesting to see what feedback has come from that. That might be something to listen to, whether particular users, our vulnerable users of our services are getting the messages and we need to do better maybe, but don't want to prejudge that. Obviously, things have moved on since I've got all these different notes that were saying the members didn't endorse or disapprove any of the mitigation options, and now the rug's been pulled from under my feet in a good way, which is always welcome additional funding here of £70,000. But again, to review it at 12 months is fair and reasonable. And again, from that review, I'd expect it to come back to review and scrutiny. Because we like to see Annette and Liz come into the meetings, and Nick, of course. Always well worth the money appearance fee there, Nick, when you come to review and scrutiny. So thank you for that. But certainly, we're supportive of this. We're glad we're getting learning from people. Elizabeth's experience is really helpful as a what was the phrase? Wheelchair accessible vehicle, was that the phrase?
Yeah.
Hey, I was listening. I did quite well there. So I think that, again, using the right terminology and making sure we reach the right people is really good. And again, the fact that collaborative working between ourselves and the County Council, where I've got a vested interest, of course, is always beneficial. And synergy, one-on-one making three in this case is really positive. So won't go on much longer, but yeah, we're supportive of this. Would welcome the trial. Would welcome to see when it comes back within 12 months or whatever to OSC. And just thank for everybody all the hard work, especially Nick. Thank you, Nick.
At this point, can I bring in Marcy Dackerson, Head of Law and Governance Monitoring Officer, to make some comments?
Thank you, Chair. Just a comment really about the principles of decision making which are evident from the Constitution, which we needed to adhere to, and we always do. But given that the report that was published looks different to what's being proposed today, I just need to put them on the table for you to consider and be sure that you've considered all aspects. So there are 6 points really. The first one is lawfulness, is what we're doing lawful. Obviously, as the lawyer in the room, I would say yes, the consideration is absolutely lawful in those circumstances, but there are other considerations which are a matter for you as the political leaders. Has there been due consultation? And is it a situation where we've taken professional advice? The third point is clarity and cost effectiveness. So it'll be clear where the funding is coming from, etc. The fourth one is a presumption of openness, which is the transparency point, obviously, which is why we're talking about the decision-making principles today, because those listening in today wouldn't have known about the fifth option that's come forward today. The fifth consideration is human rights. So is what we're proposing going to be equality for all as far as possible? For instance, as you know, one of the human rights principles is not to discriminate against anyone where we can. And proportionality is what we're doing, proportionate in the circumstances. So you as the political leaders, with that in mind, if you come to your decision and you have your rationale, it's absolutely fine.
Thank you very much indeed for that. One of the key parts of this is the fact that we did listen to the consultation with our residents, and that has been absolutely crucial. This is a collaborative experience with Warwickshire County Council, where we've been talking about making sure that that there are service enhancements that suit our residents. What we're proposing is that, subject to the agreement of Warwickshire County Council, the cabinets are looking at a new option 5, which takes account of hearing the consultation, hearing what the county council could offer, but also hearing the response of the cabinet portfolio holder, the overview and scrutiny committee, and other input that we've been able to have that negotiation with the Warwickshire County Council. So we had said that as part of the negotiation that there would be mitigation measures. What we're wanting to do is do mitigation measures for a period of 12 months, and that would be at an additional cost of 70,000. And the additional cost of 70,000, in order to be able to respond to that, one of the points that you made, would be funded from the council plan and change programme reserve, subject to a future review, future years funding considered as part of the council's budget setting process. That's the, we would have to make sure that is put into the recommendations. And at this point, I bring in the Chief Executive.
I fear I may have misled you slightly in the draft that I've texted. I've just been working on a revised recommendation 2 for the report for Cabinet to consider. Of course, what I don't take account, the additional cost to the council is £120,000, and that would be funded from the £70,000 that we're proposing now comes from the council plan and change programme, and there's a balance on there in excess of 600,000 at the moment, and then the 50,000 which was the original budget provision. So I will have to just amend that, because I wouldn't want people thinking that it's an addition as a cost of 70. It is a cost of £120,000.
Yeah, of which 50,000 is already in the budget and is already being provided in this year's budget. So yet this is an extra on top of that in order to make the whole lot as 120,000, which is actually going back to what was the original budget. Nick, you'll be able to outline just what the original budget was about a year or so ago.
Yeah, the budget in total was around 130,000, split between a cost for the vehicles and a cost for the booking centre.
Anybody want to bring in raise any other questions that the portfolio holder or the officer can answer at this stage? No? In which case, would you like to, Chief Executive, outline the recommendations that we are having put before us today, so that we can carry on with the negotiations, any that is going forward, and what will be sent to the council?
Okay, thank you, Leader. So this would replace recommendation 2 within the report presented, and as I'll just repeat it just so that everybody's clear about what the proposition is. That subject to the agreement of Warwickshire County Council, that the Cabinet approve the new option 5 as presented to the Cabinet from the mitigation measures for an initial period of 12 months at a cost of £120,000. The additional cost of £70,000, which is in excess of the current budget, be funded from the council plan and change programme reserve, with future years, but with a further review, future years funded considered as part of the council's budget setting process. So, to be clear, we're approving with the £50,000, additional £70,000 coming from the change programme budget, and then future years to be considered as part of the overall budget.
Are you, sorry?
Somebody will need to propose
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Could you propose that? Councillor Coles is proposing that. I'm happy to second that. Do you all approve? Or do you want it to be read out a little bit more clearly what exactly recommendations you are accepting today? Okay. Yeah. So we've got the recommendations as on the pages, on the papers before you, but a replacement for recommendation 2.
And sorry, Leader, we will have to amend the first recommendation as well.
At
because
the end,
it
the
says,
last part of the
at a
sentence.
significantly reduced
Yeah.
cost. I'm sorry, we'll have to remove that now.
Yeah. So what it will read is that the Cabinet notes the significant work undertaken between Warwickshire County Council and Stratford-on-Avon District Council to maintain a near identical demand-responsive transport service across the rural areas of the district and within Stratford town. Full stop. That the Cabinet considered that subject to the agreement of Warwickshire County Council, that the Cabinet approve the new option 5 as presented to the Cabinet from the mitigation measures for a period of 12 months at a cost of 120,000. The additional cost of 70,000, which is in excess of the current budget, be funded from the Council Plan and Change Programme Reserve, with subject to a further review, future years funded, considered as part of the Council's budget setting process. And then the third one is that the Council continue to work collaboratively with Warwickshire County Council and procured providers to scrutinise the delivery of this revised service to ensure that it continues to meet the needs of the district's residents. And number 4, that delegated authority be provided to the Head of Housing, Revenues and Customer Service in consultation with the portfolio holder to enter into contracts for the provision of the services resultant from the recommendation of this report. And could I just add, finally, I do thank all those concerned, both at this district council and at the county council, for the negotiations, because it will lead to the outcome that we wanted. But I do know that it's not been an easy process, but I do think it will actually deliver much, much better than we had anticipated. So I do thank everybody for their input, and I do thank Accessible Stratford for their input also, because that has been a key part of the consultation, making sure that we are able to deliver to all those people going forward. So I put the recommendations on the table before you. We've had a proposer and we've had a seconder. Could I see whether you are in favour of the recommendations? All those in favour? Thank you very much indeed. That is appreciated. And is there any urgent business for this meeting? No urgent business, in which case I say that declare that the meeting